Hi everybody, welcome back to the Perk Pace podcast. How are we doing?
I'm great, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Fucking fabulous.
So today we're going to talk about happiness and defining happiness for you, what that looks like. I think, when we get to January time, it's always a time to reflect and have a look at, what does good look like for you and what does happiness look like for you.
Reassessing your values and stuff.
I'm sure we're going to get into like a therapy sort of session.
I might cry.
Yeah. Where's the tissues, Ian?
Should we drink some coffee first? Should we ease into it?
I mean, happiness has just arrived.
Happiness is in the cup. Right. This one smells crazy.
This one tastes...
My nostril, yeah.
This
Last episode...
Taste note's got to be blackcurrant, something like that.
Oh, Ian's...
Do you know what? When we talk about like food and stuff and smell...
Passion fruit.
I feel like I'm just way off. Like if you were saying, when people taste food or they drink something and they go, I can taste
subjective
coriander or what, it's like, I feel like mine are numb.
Well, number one, it is subjective, like Ian says. And number two, you can train it. I, through like a lot of my coffee training and stuff, have learned, my palate's got better, but I'm not that good at it. Some people, my brother is insane. My brother's like a wine sommelier, whatever, however you say that word.
Sommelier.
And he's just like, oh yes, ripe peaches. And I'm like, it tastes nice.
Harvested in the south of Italy.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Don't worry about the numbness. We'll work on that.
So this is completely different to the last coffee we drank. This is so fruity. This is so...
Yeah, that's hitting the back of my neck.
I feel like
I'm going to say complex and sound like a complete wanker.
I feel like I'm eating a pack of Starburst.
It's interesting you said that. And you know what I love about this? I made this coffee for Ian earlier in the week and he hated it.
I did.
So I love that you're now saying that you like it. So this is another one from All Caps. We're doing a double back-to-back All Caps roaster.
It's not decaf, is it?
No, it's not decaf. I'm not doing that to you
again. Pull that
again.
over us again.
It's another one from Colombia. A lot of coffee from Colombia this time of year. Just seasonality, that kind of thing. But this is one of those ones where they've actually used fruit in the fermentation process. So there's actually strawberry in the fermentation process.
That's making sense.
And there's this whole thing in coffee now about like, is that, by the way, thank you All Caps, I really like this. And there's this big question mark in coffee about if you actually use fruit in the fermentation process, is it cheating? Is it still coffee in its purest form? Blah, blah, because you're like fucking with it. It's like...
Is this because of the coffee...
Snobbery,
yeah.
But a lot of people are getting into it. It's like the new coolest trend in coffee. Okay. And to be honest, I don't care. Like, you've made a nice coffee and it tastes interesting and it's a talking point.
Yeah.
But people get really upset about it.
Well, I think that's really good.
I like it.
And yeah, this was one that I definitely wasn't into. I wasn't not into it, but it was one that wasn't doing it for me.
You know what I think? I made it for you like 6 a.m. in the morning and that's probably quite a lot. That is like a bag of sweets.
Wow.
There you go. Wow.
Oh my gosh.
Owen Wilson's in the house.
Oh my gosh.
So cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Right. Redefining happiness.
Yes.
You know what I think is important here? I think we need to sort of define what we mean by like happiness, or like the textbook version of happiness. Because for me, I think it starts at school. I think it's like...
We're going that deep.
Yeah, let's go straight in.
Let's go for it, yeah.
Because I think at school, like, you're taught the syllabus, you're taught to pass tests, tick, 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 tick. You're ticking boxes always. Have you passed the test? Have you gone on to further education, or have you gone on to whatever the expectation is wherever you are? Yeah. And then after that, it's like, okay, did you get the job? Have you got the partner? Have you got the house? Have you got the car, the pet, the kids, the holidays? More. But I think it starts back there. Of you're told you're sold the dream.
Yeah.
And at some point in your life, you might question.
You have to unpack it.
you might. Some people that might be happiness, but you might question: is this really what I want?
Yeah. I mean, where do we even start? I think that because the school system is so structured to test kids on, pretty much how good is your memory.
Factory.
Factory. And I'm not that way at all.
No, me
either. I pushed myself academically, but I was never I was never somebody who could just remember a lot of information and then jot it down. And my brother's currently going through this process where you can tell his learning style is, completely different from all the other kids. He's just, when you talk about creativity and, coming up with ideas and being visual and stuff like that, he's there all day.
Is it getting nurtured? Are they better with it than they were in our day?
No, absolutely not. Nah. And it's frustrating because ultimately we can't do anything about it. And it's just, I just think it's, you know, we spoke about this on a previous podcast, but the educational system is just fucking broken.
That's dog shit.
Yeah, it's dog shit.
I know Ian's got an opinion on this because Ian's like super creative, and like you never really felt like you performed well at school, did you?
It's all right, mate. Just talk to us.
No, I did not perform well at school.
Did you not?
No.
But a high achieving person who has like set up multiple businesses, is successful.
Do you know what makes me laugh? You know when we talk about like high achieving person at school?
Yeah.
Do you
So,
know-
what do they do now?
Yeah, like do you even fucking know yourself when you're that
Right,
old? And
right.
what does that even mean?
You'll end up down a road of like, okay, well, I ended up at uni, I ended up doing
Yeah.
this, and you could wake up in a corporate job.
Yeah.
I think this sounds like I'm super anti-corporate because we've talked about it before as well. Both of us have been in
I'm
corporate.
anti-corporate.
But like, and I hated it. It didn't work
Yeah,
for me.
yeah.
That was not happiness
Yeah.
for me. But so some people,
It is.
it is.
And that's okay.
I think the thing I wanted to like differentiate between was, okay, it started up with like keeping up with the Joneses, right? The idea of like looking at your neighbour and their car, all their lawn's really pretty.
Yeah.
And now it's social media,
100%.
looking at influencers.
Yeah.
But both of those as examples, you have no idea what's going on behind the surface. Like the Joneses, oh, that's a lovely car. He might shut the front door and be suffering from clinical depression.
Yeah.
Social
That's his
media,
life.
it is a curated window into
Yeah.
somebody's world.
And I think if you're of the age of like, you know, late 20s to and above, I didn't grow up with social media.
No, me either.
I think, you know, I got Facebook when I was like 18, and that was the first thing I dabbled in because it was a thing at uni where everyone used to meet and stuff like that. But nowadays you've got kids who are like 12, 13 and they're on
Growing up
TikTok,
on it.
Instagram.
Scary, isn't it?
And it just puts more pressure on, I have to be like this, or I have to, you know, you're seeing a completely distorted view of what real happiness looks like. And it's hard to then detach yourself from that to really have a conversation with yourself about what
brings you joy.
yeah. And it's not, you know, it's cliche, but it's not, I don't think happiness is consistent, and I don't think it's supposed to be consistent either.
Well, there's a whole spectrum of human emotions in there.
Yeah, of course.
That just reminded me of the phrase, have you heard the phrase comparison is a thief of joy?
Yeah.
Ian, can you Google who said that?
I would think it was probably...
I think it's an American president said it.
No, I think
Comparison is a thief of joy, and I use it a lot in terms of like...
I think it's someone cleverer.
So cleverer than American president?
What?
What?
Oh, it was Theodore
Roosevelt.
I told you.
President.
Said it in the late 1800s.
Right, and never has a truer word been spoken when it comes to social media, because how often are you going to like compare yourself to somebody else?
Yeah.
But then, okay, so how do you think... Because we talk about this a lot, like personal happiness and where you kind of like sit in the world.
Yeah.
How did you get to a point of understanding what happiness meant to you?
Oof. Where'd you fucking start?
Well, I mean, try.
How long we got?
Can make a two-parter.
Yeah.
You got 30 minutes.
I know, yeah. I've quite openly discussed that for a long time my happiness was put in achieving. So it was, even when I was younger, it was my martial arts and all this sort of stuff, and then the athletics and everything like that, because I was trying to find some sense of self-worth in achieving a goal, you know, making myself feel good enough, or whether it's the dynamic of you want to feel loved, and that was the only way that I could, you know, subconsciously think that I was enough or that I was doing well. And then I thought I got rid of it in my early 20s, but then I don't think I did now looking back in hindsight, because, you know, I did what most people do. I did okay at school, managed to get into university, but when I was in university, I wasn't there for the degree.
I mean, who is?
Yeah, well, this is it, and you know, I had this lofty dream that I was gonna, you know, make it as an athlete. That never happened, and then you end up in a bit of a weird grey space post uni, and then you're like, well, I'll just do what everyone else is doing and get a job.
Right.
And I think it's good because it's a lot different now, because the world is different. You can, you know, people, I don't think we're as good as other countries, but, you know, we're a lot more sort of, yes, go and start that your own business, or if you've got an idea, let's go for it. There's
Explore that passion.
Yeah, but certainly for me, when I left uni, you didn't see a lot of it. It was like complete outliers that were doing that sort of thing. So fell into like a corporate job, and then you started getting money, and then you get on that disgusting rabbit wheel of, you know, I must be doing well, and your lifestyle changes because you've got more money, etc., etc. So to answer the question without going round and roundabout, I did. I went through like 10 years of, you know, I had the car, I had money, I bought myself my first property, and I was fucking miserable. And it's just like, I always found that whenever I used to go in cycles in my life. So I'd go through like periods of what I would class as extreme growth, and then get to maybe like, let's say year 3, year 4 within that cycle, and it would feel like my world would crumble down. And then I'd restart again, and every single time I just started chipping away at what real happiness was for me. So it was trial by error, really. And I'll give you an example. Like, even now, you know, I'm 34 years old, and people's metric of success for, you know, me being a young male or whatever like that is, you know, am I married? Do I have kids? Have I got a house? Have I got a high paying job? It's like, who decided that
well,
was,
who did? Literally, who wrote that rule? And
that goes back to, like, you know, baby boomers, and the economy was different, and it was easy for our parents to buy property and stuff like that, and that's what success was. But nowadays, it's just the rule book's been you know, ripped apart.
I'll tell you what made a big difference to me assessing, it certainly wasn't a conscious decision at the time, like you just said, was having a massive failure in my life.
Big time.
Massive, because I was working towards this being a musician thing, to the point where my education fell to the wayside, like friendships, relationships, I just focused on this thing. And when it didn't happen, when it all came crumbling down, I had a fucking meltdown.
It's fucking terrible. Isn't
I'd never really experienced any kind of failure before in my life, because I think, like, because I hadn't pushed myself at school, when I didn't do that well, it didn't feel like a failure, and there was no sport or athletic side to it. So this was the first time where I hadn't really got my way, and it was so wrapped up in my identity as well. I was so lost.
It's hard. It's horrible.
And I remember just being like bereft. Like, I was going through a breakup. I was at home. I was at uni because like, my dad had decided that I needed to go to uni. He's Greek. It's part of their culture. That's what you do. So I went because it kind of ticked a box there. And so I was at uni, but I didn't go for like 2 weeks. So I sat at home just like crying. I was like, what the fuck am I going to do now? My life's over. I'm 24. My life's over. And that, it forces you to rebuild. It forces you to reassess.
Yeah. It's really hard, because it's like there isn't, you know, the question that I've got down here around, you know, is it just a byproduct of living a more fulfilling life? Is that what happiness is, rather than I'm going to get somewhere and then I'll be happy?
Yeah.
You know, if you said to, if I gave you a magic ball now and I said, right, you get your 3 wishes, what's happiness going to look like for you?
Let's be honest, it's to do with people being healthy.
Yeah.
People around me being healthy.
There you go. Keep going. Go on.
You know, there probably is financial security, because then that like gets rid of worry.
Yeah.
Not to a point of greed, but just so you don't have to worry about it. And there's a third one. But like, it's not material things.
No, it's not. Yeah. When you, it's not. You know, whether you have whatever, I say success, but it's so relative. But whatever you have in terms of success, or you think is success, you know, a house or a business doing really well or whatever else. You know, from my personal experience, you know, I'm going back to what I said earlier about, I'll give you a good example. So for this year, I had my consultancy business, and I made the choice to close it down, because financially it just wasn't doing as well as it should have done, or I wanted it to do, which is fine. You know, you have an idea, you go for it, doesn't work, you go again, sort of thing. And my initial thought was, I need to get back to that same level of financial success, or I need to sort of prove to myself that I can get that sort of quote unquote success or money. Ended up getting another job, got headhunted for a corporate job. More money than anybody in my family had ever earned before. So that was an ego tickle for me, because I was like, oh, Matt, you've
made it.
Yeah, you're at the top of the family tree. You're there, sort of thing. And it was fucking terrible. It was just like, you know, I lost myself. It was like I resigned after 8 weeks. It was that bad. But I'm actually proud of myself for making the decision to put my own happiness first, because younger Matt, 25-year-old Matt, would have just stayed there, got burnt out, you know, probably got fired because I would have spoken my mind about something that I didn't agree with, and just done it for the money.
You know what's funny as well, from an outsider's perspective, because I knew you when you were going through this.
I bet you were like, what the fuck's
No, not at all. Not at all. Because I've even written down here in my notes, live and let live.
Oh, wow.
Like 100% of like, what's happiness for me is not happiness for somebody else. But I was, number one, super like, if I say proud of the fact that you'd made that decision so quickly. You realised it wasn't right. But I remember saying to Ian, you came over the day you handed in your notice and we were chatting, and I remember saying to Ian, he was like a different person.
Really? Was it that obvious?
Like, yeah, but like, it hadn't been obvious previously. It hadn't been obvious while you were doing the job. But then your whole persona, when you came through the door and we sat here, you were like, the energy was totally different. And doesn't that just go to show about like values?
100%.
I want to know what, it's really interesting, you said the 3 wishes. I want to know what Ian's 3 wishes are.
Oh, don't ask me that.
You've got 3 wishes. Anything in the world.
We can't be together, sorry.
No. God,
I'll get out the way, guys. I will get out the way.
I don't know, that's a hard one. I think, like you say, I think like health is a big one, because without health you have nothing.
Yeah.
And then obviously, for me, like maybe good friendships.
Yes.
Good
Oh
friendships.
yeah, relationships.
Like relationships, yeah. I think that's really important. In fact, weirdly, they did. Have you ever watched the thing on Netflix? They did where the blue zones are in the world.
Oh yeah, like in terms of location and
like people's longevity and happiness, and they studied them all, and most of them were about
What, life expectancy?
Yeah.
We're talking about. Okay.
But it was like a lot of them was to do with like having social relationships and stuff like that.
And like a lot of sunlight or good food and community. Yeah.
Which I think is overlooked.
Yeah.
You know
100%.
what? People listening, please let us know what your 3 wishes are.
Yes.
That's such a good.
That's such a good
thing.
thing, yeah.
Like, literally 3 wishes. Anything. What are they?
I think it's hard because I think you instantly want to go for like a selfish reason.
Like what?
Well, you know, when someone asks you for a wish, you're like, oh, I wish I had that Lamborghini or something.
Do you really wish you had a Lamborghini?
I personally
then?
don't, but I know people who would. For instance, we were out on a work study the other night.
Oh, yeah.
And the girl who works for you, she's going into a high-paid job.
Yeah.
And she's super excited to get loads of money. She wants to buy a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
She wants to do this, and she's really. First thing she said to me was, "I'm really happy to buy things. I'm really excited to buy things."
Yeah, but can we rewind that story? She has defied all odds to overachieve in athletics, education, and she's doing it for her mum, man. Like, there is a beautiful story there.
And that's powerful. Yeah.
Right. And so, like, okay, I think fair play, go and live that life, buy the Lamborghini. Sure, she might have a realisation later on. But
she's also young.
She's like 21, yeah. But like, also, she might have that realisation, or she might not, and that could really be happiness to her.
It's like the pleasure and happiness or fulfilment cup that we were talking about. Like you'll get to a point where, you know, are you doing it for pleasure and ego, or are you doing it fulfillment
because you really want to drive that car?
Because you'll have that car, it'll feel great, but I guarantee you in 2 weeks you'll just be like.
In fact, my good friend Nick Bear, if you're listening to this podcast, Nick, please like and subscribe. But he talks about in one of his podcasts. Have you listened to this one where he brought I can't remember what car it was now. He brought a super expensive car. He had it all specced out and everything. And he was like, I drove it for like a day, realised I am not that person, and it brings no happiness to my life. And then he literally took it back to the garage the next day.
Wow.
Yeah.
The good Lord is looking on him.
There you go.
I love Nick.
I know you love him.
I hope you do well, Nick, because we
BNP sponsor. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, well, like, in which case then, so a lot of people might be ticking boxes.
Yeah.
That could be a thing a lot of people relate to here. I know how I have decided what makes me happy. I've got a very clear idea of what makes me happy, actually.
That's interesting.
And it's all to do with, like, values and what's important to me and things aligning with that. How have you... I can come back to that, but how have you...
I'm on the couch.
No, as in, like, how have you... Because I think you have a really clear idea of what makes you happy as well.
Yeah.
So, like, you say it's come through, like, trial and error thing. But do you ever think about, like, values and what's important to you as a person?
I do, but probably not as much as I think I should, if that makes sense.
Because, like, somebody once asked me, well, it was my business coach, actually, it was like, if you had to pick, like, 3 or 4 things that you live by, what are they? And he didn't put me on the spot, it was like homework. I went away and thought about it. And it was, one of them was like honesty. I want to be honest. I want to be the honest person in the room. I want to have fun.
Yeah.
I want to be like healthy. And I might have forgotten what the fourth one is at this point in time. But then when I feel unhappy, if you unpack it, it is a direct result of the fact that it hasn't aligned with one of those 100%. Things. Like one is, I wouldn't say, I can't think of a time where I lied to somebody. It might be that I've tried to bullshit my way through something and therefore I don't feel like I'm being authentic. And obviously the health one,
massive,
big into training, big doing that, and that aligns so well with my values. So for me, it's like happiness is being honest, having honest, meaningful relationships with people, having the facility to be healthy, having fun, doing fun things. And then you start asking, well, what are fun things to me then? What do I like doing? I like going out for coffee, cafes, I like travelling. So then it's like, okay, this thing that I want, a car, a bigger house, does it align with those values?
Usually it doesn't.
If anything, for me, it takes away from those values, because if I spend loads of money on a really big house or go and get a really fancy car, I then am less likely to be able to afford to do the travelling that's so important to me, blah, 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 blah. So if you want the Lamborghini, go and get the Lamborghini, sure, but what are you giving up?
Do you think that people's happiness, barometer is affected by who they surround themselves with?
100%.
Yeah.
100%, because so the one for me that's really clear there is alcohol. I kind of held back on the last podcast talking about this because, as you know, Ian and I don't drink.
Yeah.
And that was a decision that we made, 8-9 years ago?
Mid-fight.
No, but honestly, we didn't realise it at the time, but it was a decision about happiness and the way that we were treating each other and the way that we felt. So we chose happiness over this thing. Though, like I said, we didn't put it like that at the time. But that has meant that there are people who are just no longer in our lives because they either couldn't deal with the fact that we weren't drinking anymore or they made us feel bad about it.
Yeah, it's such a big one. Like, I've never had a problem with alcohol, but I've always had, I think, a weird relationship with it in the sense that I come from like a big sort of working class family where drink was big. My dad had like four brothers, and it was a big thing. Everybody in my family drank. And me and my sister, we never really did when we were younger, and the family was almost a bit like, well, you're not drinking sort of thing when we were of drinking age. And then as I got into that corporate trap, and it's like, unless you're having a drink after work and you're not networking and blah blah blah, if you're the type of person that can have a life where you can control your drink and have a good time, it doesn't affect, you're a fucking lucky bastard. But for me, going back to it not aligning with my values and what made me happy and stuff like that, I just couldn't. I drank like, I think I had 1 pint like a few months ago with friends, and even after that one drink,
you felt shit.
I felt shit. I slept terrible.
Yes.
I woke up the next day and I was like, bleh, like, this is not me. I like waking up fresh. I like being able to train. I like being able to do what I need to do. But for me, and to your point about like surrounding yourself with the right people and happiness, I've had pockets of people in my life who, they would only speak to me if it was to say, are you coming out? Or, we're really good mates, let's just go and have a glass of wine, or let's do whatever. Yeah, I love doing that if I'm on holiday or if I'm with the right people who value me as a person. There's no judgment. There's no like, oh, come on, you're being boring. Just have one more. I fucking detest that.
Yeah.
And you'll soon realise who the right people are for you in your life when you're in those situations and they just completely support.
Cool.
Yeah.
Shrug.
They're just like, or they're not pushing you to get absolutely slammed for no reason. So I'm all for like kicking people out if they're not.
Well, that's savage though, isn't it? And I think that's
something that... It's got to be fucking done though. It's got to be done.
100%. But like, imagine how that feels. It sounds quite daunting to say to somebody, you need to audit your friends. But...
Let me get a piece of paper.
Start crossing off. Because that circle... And especially if you're younger and you've come out of uni or whatever, or any like big community you've built, and it's such a big part of who you are, to suddenly be thinking, I need to make this smaller, or it just gets really fucking small. I can count my good friends on one hand.
Because again, socially, we're told that we need a massive group of fucking friends, and everybody's got to love us, and we've got to be Mr. Socialite or Mrs. Socialite of the year. Nah.
Okay, so then when you are challenging those perceptions of things like not drinking or anything to do with like tick boxes, the house, the car, the kids, whatever it is, when you're then saying, no, I don't want that for me, how do you go about that mentally? Because that's hard. Ballsy.
Yeah, it is. And you've got to audit your life. I think everybody gets to the stage where they're just that fed up and tired of trying to put on this avatar of like who they think they should be, that exhaustion causes them to be like, fuck this, I need to really think about what I want. And it's scary and it's hard because you feel there's like an element of loneliness in there because you feel like am I gonna detach myself? And if you're the sort of person that really needs other people to feel good and that sort of thing, it's fucking scary. But you know, you've got to, I like I said to you at the start, when I go through those sort of 3 or 4 year chapters and then things seem to go topsy-turvy. That isn't a fucking word, topsy-turvy.
Topsy-turvy.
Topsy-turvy, tipsy-turvy.
Topsy-turvy. You got it.
Then, you know, it's triggering, but guess what? You know, when like you start saying no to stuff, it's fucking powerful. You start enjoying it.
I think it's a skill to say no. Saying no in a way that's just like, nah, this isn't for me.
Yeah.
And again, like I remember, I'll use the drinking thing as another good example. Although actually, for me, with some people, it was switching up and training a lot harder as well. People just didn't get it. At first, I definitely felt bad. Not saying no to things, but like, well, drink was the big one. Like, and then also, I think because we stopped drinking relatively soon after we got married, a lot of it was like, oh, she must be pregnant. There was a lot of
another expectation.
A lot of that. Like, oh, notice Lydia's not drinking. It must be because of this. Now we've been married like nearly 10 years. I think they've realised that's not it.
Yeah.
But you know, there has to be a why. People are like, well, why aren't you drinking?
Yeah.
And I ended up just saying things like, they're like, well, why aren't you drinking? I'd just be like, oh, well, I haven't since the incident. Or just like something that would just shut them the fuck up. Like, it's none of your business. And like I said, the right people won't question it.
Not at all.
But then now, I've come to terms with it so much in my head that actually I'm proud. I'm proud to be like, no, I do this because this. I'm so sure of myself and that it's the right thing for me that I don't care if you think I'm a bellend. But when I was 16, 17, 18, Lydia in a band, drinking a lot. I mean, I was just the front person of a band. My life was about people liking me and like adoring what I was doing. If you said to her, you're not going to care that people think you're a bellend, she'd be like, no, my whole life revolves around what people think of me. Isn't it
weird of how... Like,
does it just come with maturity though?
I think it does.
I think you become more emotionally connected to yourself.
Yeah.
And you know yourself better. I think, going back to what you were saying, I think it's hard for some people to tune into like what is happiness because they don't know their emotions.
Agree.
And if you do not know that, then you don't know what happiness is.
And do you think people feel guilty for putting themselves first in that way? I can think of a few people in my life, mainly like mothers, who will feel incredibly guilty about putting themselves first.
That also comes from the classic, it's just an old school mentality.
But I mean women my age who are mothers who will feel guilty about putting themselves... I know straight away you go to your mother because she'd do anything for anybody, but rather than put herself first. It's beautiful, but...
Isn't it crazy how it's questioned though? Like, putting yourself first is selfish. How fucking bananas is
Who's
that?
going to look after me? If I don't look after me,
Like, that's just...
But I think it's... You've got to look after yourself in order to be able to look after somebody else.
Oh, 100%.
Preach.
But yeah, if you don't have that, then you're not the best version of yourself to help the other person achieve what they need to.
Let's think about this the other way around though, because how much can you say, hand on heart, you never pass judgment on someone else's decisions?
Oh yeah,
all the time.
All the time, yeah.
Right. Yeah. I that just came to me just then, and I was like, and I do try and like school myself on that.
Yeah.
But somebody else who maybe like puts all over their social media like that they've just gone and bought a wanky car or something like that, and I roll my eyes. I'm like, oh really? Like you know, you're chasing the dream. It's like, no, you know what? That might really make them happy, and who am I to judge?
100%.
I think it depends actually, because if you know that person and you know what they're like on social media, and you know them in real life, a lot of people on social media are completely not what they are in real life.
But how much do we sit there and let's be honest, judge people for going out and like getting absolutely shit-faced, and we're like, God, imagine how rough they're going to feel tomorrow. But honestly, we need to get off our high horse, really.
I'm not judging them. I'm just thinking about myself. I'm thinking, it makes me think about when I used to do that, and like, fuck me, wake up in the morning with like regret of something I'd said.
Yeah, anxiety.
Which is roof. Yeah, oh God, yeah.
Fucking
not
terrible.
required.
So don't miss it.
I think so. The key here is you just got to ask why. Why do you want the things that you want?
Yeah.
So, I remember I got really obsessed with. We watched the documentary on minimalism. What's it called?
Minimalism.
There you go, crazy. And it started this whole cycle in my life where we just got rid of so much shit because we'd just gone out and just like spent loads of money. But I will never forget. There was one bit in this documentary where this woman was saying, I really want to live this lifestyle. I don't want to be surrounded by useless stuff that means nothing to me. But I love my books, man. I've got hundreds and hundreds of books and I can't bear to part with them. And she was almost asking his permission. And he was just like, I'm going to stop you there. Keep your books.
Yeah.
They obviously mean a lot to you.
Yeah.
Keep your books. And you're just one question away, aren't you? One question away from like, does this mean something?
Yeah.
Genuinely mean something
From unlocking
to me?
just a different perspective. I always find that, I think this comes down to maybe like personality types or characteristics, but for me personally, I think I always feel happy when I'm progressing. So like if I'm a you know, it goes back to that whole goal thing again, but if I'm do you know what, I don't know if you found this as well, but because we've got similar personality types, I think.
It's scary.
Yeah, but I mean, you're on one end and I'm on the other, but we've got the same personality types in the sense that like, so you know, we talk about like procrastination and stuff like that. So I'm very much a creature of habit. I found this out as I've gotten older. Like when I was younger, I used to like not lose my rag, but I'd almost be a bit like my day would be severely affected if, you know, I didn't. Like it's hard to explain. If I got up and
if your schedule was slightly off,
and it was slightly off, or someone was in here making a noise while I'm trying to do something, while I'm trying to lock in, it'd just flip me. I just like I wouldn't lose my rag, but I'd just feel completely off inside. And then as I've gotten older, I've noticed it more, and you know, it's just that it's. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know what I'm on about when it's like, you know. The way that I'm trying to get something done and something external is happening, or it puts me off my train of thought, it fucking sends me over the edge, and it can affect the whole of my day. And then again, we're going deep, but I don't know whether that's like a procrastination thing, whether it's a bit of, you know, OCD sort of thing. Like,
I know what I think it is.
Go on.
I think you've chosen to stop letting it affect you.
Yeah.
I think so I think that things like that about like when something completely affects your day and ruins your day, effectively affects your happiness.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Like when I understand that when you're younger, you maybe have less self-control over it.
Yeah,
100%. Me too. Me too. I used to be vicious. I used to be horrible to people. I would choose to be horrible so it would make me feel good about myself. Yeah. Classic.
We've all been there.
Yeah. But at some point there was a switch in me, and I flipped. I was like, I'm going to choose not to do that anymore. Yeah. And I think you've just chosen now to like, you obviously recognise it, and you're choosing to not let it affect your day in the same way. And
it's the whole like affecting your mood, and then your mood obviously being you know,
like the world is going to throw unexpected shit at you every day. Like what's the quote about a plan? Something about
until you get punched in the face.
You will plan until you get punched in the face, right? And so every day I've got a list of things. Mike Tyson, yes.
Everybody's got a game plan until they get punched in the face.
There you go. But like every day I've got a whole list of things that I want to achieve, and I'm a business owner, so like any 1 million things could get thrown at me and completely derail me.
It's like tennis locked.
I most definitely used to, and probably still do, get to the end of the day and I'm like, well, that went to shit, and I can be really upset about it. Or it's now a mental choice to revisit and be like, but I did this, I did that, here's the success.
That's the difference, what you just said there. It's the fact that you're reassessing. You're not just like going to bed and just getting into this fucking spiral of like the world shitting on me and I'm unhappy and everything like that. You're obviously you've trained this muscle, but you've come to the point where it's like, okay, I'm still in control here. At the end of the day, this is what actually went well.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to even do now. Like if even as something as simple as if I don't train or stick to my plan, we spoke about this the other day. I get such guilt. Like Like, and then that affects my mood and it affects how happy I am and all stuff like that. But it's learning to be like, well, no, actually, the 90% of the week you absolutely smashed.
Yeah.
Just because today didn't go to plan doesn't mean that your whole mood or, you know, happiness has got to be off.
But then something I use all the time when coaching either people that I work with or talking to friends or anything, in that scenario is I always say, what would you say to somebody else? And I think that when you're talking that, I'm like, well, I know exactly what you'd say to your clients if they came to you, Matt, I missed the fucking session, or this session went to shit. Or you've even said it to me when, like, last week I was saying, oh my God, I've got to do a session on 3 hours sleep or something. Yeah. And you said to me, like, you need to reassess your expectations of this session. Mm-hmm. So, like, in that scenario, you've just got to be like, what would I say to somebody else?
It's bizarre, isn't it?
Oh yeah, 100%. But I think it's the single most useful tool for anything in your own head is to say, what would I say to somebody else?
Yeah, and try and just verbally.
Because we're all so good at advising other people.
Not ourselves.
Ian's really great at advising other people.
I was just about to say, you fucking... You talk to me like Yoda, and then...
Yeah, but then in your
when
own...
it comes to himself...
Be honest, in your own head, are you saying those things to yourself?
I just choose not to listen to them for some reason.
But I think everyone can...
choose sadness.
I think everyone can relate to it. I
choose violence every day.
But I think everyone can relate to that. Because, you know, I said on the previous podcast, there's something good about giving yourself a hard time, about expecting a lot from yourself. But what are those expectations? Are they realistic?
Yeah, it's like you might be the same, but my default message to myself when things get hard is, don't be a pussy. Like,
me too. That's what I say to myself. Don't be a pussy.
It works great in certain situations, and I think that's what, you know, allows us to do what we do competitively and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But, you know, in most situations, it can be quite toxic because
sometimes you just need to be a pussy.
Yeah. Even saying that out loud, it just doesn't make like.
No, I know.
Yeah, but
I know.
It's a funny dynamic.
Okay, so what does happiness look like to you?
Oh wow, fuck me. What does happiness look like to me? I think I always say this, as I've gotten older...
Because you are ancient.
Because I'm fucking old. Being present with my family is a big one. Because, again, I've really started to realise how fucking short our time is and how things can just change like that. So, spending real quality time with my family... it's at the top of the list in terms of what makes me happy. My brother's a big catalyst of that. Seeing him, not just mature, but like have different conversations with me that I wasn't able to have with my dad. That makes me really happy because I want to create a space for him that I didn't necessarily have when I was younger. Not through any fault of mine.
Because your brother's a lot younger than you, right?
Yeah. So he's only 16. And we've got a really close relationship, and seeing him go through those stages in life, knowing that I can be there to be like, you know, to listen to him more than anything, rather than being like, you know, cracking the whip saying you shouldn't do this, you need to do that. Just and watching him grow as a person into George is like, it makes me so happy. And not, you know, obviously he's a big motivator to me, you know, showing him what's possible and competing and everything like that, but that's what makes me happy, and being healthy. Yeah. I think those three things are just that's just it, really.
Do you think you still hold on to any of the like happiness being to do with finances and stuff like that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
You can never really get rid of it.
No, and I think that, I'll be honest, I think that stays with me for the rest of my life. And I think that the fact that I'm aware of it, I don't let it control me. I did let it control me in my 20s. You know, like I said, I bought the car, got the big paying job, all this crap. But I think I needed to do that to realise that it doesn't mean shit.
Because trial and error, isn't it?
Yeah, it doesn't.
But like,
And also, I just want to say, I think there's nothing wrong with being...
financially motivated.
Yeah, I think it's fucking great. I think everybody should be. But you've got to play the game. You've got to still be, motivated, but realise that it's not about the numbers or the bank, or the, you know, numbers in the bank. It's about what that allows you to do. It's just a tool. It's just a vehicle.
Right. Yeah. Like I said, I just listed some kind of financial security as a happiness thing because it just enables the other things that bring me joy.
There you go.
But ultimately, if my house was taken away from me tomorrow, or I guess if you want to be really deep about it, as long as I still had Ian, as long as I still had the family that were really important to me and they were healthy, life wouldn't suck.
No, it wouldn't. And it's perspective, isn't it? It's like, there's so many people far worse off. When you get out your own fucking bubble and you just like... Perspective is...
But you touched on this earlier and you said something about like human emotion, like you're not always going to be happy as well. No. There's something really powerful there, I think, about realising that you are going to have days where you're sad about something or you're feeling anxious about something or stressed about something, and not letting that completely derail your happiness.
It's not black and white, absolutely.
No, there are human emotions and you are going to experience all of them.
Yeah, you got to ride the wave.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So what about you then? We'll end it with what makes you happy. Health is a really, really big one to me. Because is that a new one?
Yes. New as in like the last 3 years. So I think I've had a massive like personal journey, and for me, happiness was, and we talked about it before on previous podcasts. I am so intertwined on a identity level with my business, and a lot of that is about what I think success is and getting to a certain point with the business and it looking impressive. I've got this big chip on my shoulder, but I'm aware of it and I'm trying to deal with it. So but that was because I got to a certain point with the business where on paper it looks like I should be happy with it, and I realised I wasn't, and that just started this whole reassessment of
unraveling
everything. Absolutely. And I was like, actually I want to be healthy. One of my least favourite phrases in the whole world is when people say I'm here for a good time, not a long time. And I'm like, so you don't value your own health so much. I was like, why can't you be here for a good time and a long time? Whoa. Crazy. So health. And my family, really, really small circle of like friends and family that mean everything to me. And then like the things that bring me joy, I just want to have, I get not obsessed with, but I'm very conscious of the idea of, I wouldn't call it a perfect day because that's setting a crazy standard.
No, but I like it.
But like a very repeatable day. What does that day look like? What do I want to do? I want to get up in the morning, I want to have a coffee, I want to chat to Ian, I want to read my book, I want to do some kind of training, and I want to go and do something nice in terms of like go for a walk, go to a coffee shop, go to a nice restaurant, something like that. And that sounds really simple.
But how beautiful is that?
When I have those days, I'm really happy. And the thing that changes is I would love to do that in as many places around the world as possible. Just have that day, pick it up, put it somewhere else. So that's the bit where it is tied into some level of financial.
Love it.
Because that does cost something. But it means then I make that choice of being like, okay, I don't need the massive house, I don't need the crazy car, because I know that I spend my money on that.
Wow.
There you go.
Bomb dropped.
Ian, come on, one sentence, what's happiness to you? Because I want to hear what happiness is to them as well. So.
A really nice cigarette. No, I don't. No. I don't know. For me, it's
maybe
hard.
It's something to work.
I do try and get this out of Ian quite a lot.
My trouble is that it's only like the past couple of years I've become aware of my emotions.
This is good.
Do you know what I mean? And like for that, I'm learning more about myself.
Nice.
And as I get older, I feel like I'm discovering that life isn't forever. And that sounds really stupid.
Precious.
We do take that for granted.
But like I think sometimes I'm living in such a fast world of what I do. It's kind of like I never stop and think about that. But it's like
Ian's going to share with us on the next podcast.
We need to reflect. We need to reflect daily or weekly on things that have gone well.
Yeah, it's good.
So please do like and subscribe and tell us what happiness means to you. And you know what? Homework. Go away. Write down what happiness means to you and start trying to see some patterns there and what your values are. We'd be really interested to know what they are. But thank you for watching. See you next time.
See you later.